the member for Barara. Before I call the next speaker, could I acknowledge the presence of members of the Armenian National Committee who've joined us in the Federation Chamber this evening. Welcome to you all. And I call the member for Melbourne Ports.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. I want to pay tribute also to the Armenian National Committee for their involvement with the member for Goldstein in organising this debate this afternoon. It's a very important anniversary, the 70th anniversary, and I'm proud to be involved in recalling its passage. The United Nations Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of Genocide. As Barara said, it was Raphael Lemkin, a Jewish lawyer from Poland, who coined the term. Apparently it wasn't understood or known before that, in response to the extent of the atrocities inflicted on the Armenian people. As the member for Barara said, 1.5 million people. Of course, in that conflict with Turkey, many Greek and Assyrian population of the Ottoman Empire were equally badly affected, but it had a specific effect, the non-remembrance of it. As the member for Barara said, Adolf Hitler told a leading group of Nazi generals meeting in the days before the commencement of the Second World War, words to the effect, "Who remembers the Armenians?" And he said this phrase because it was a phrase that presaged what his aggressive plans in Eastern Europe were. They were issued at the Obersalzberg on the eve of the Second World War to say that we are going to launch, that is, Germany was going to launch, a racial war in Eastern Europe. It was not a war of nation against nation, and he was assuring his generals and Gauleiters that they could get away with it because of what had happened to the Armenians. So it's so important to go back to the beginning as we recall what happened in the Second World War, that we remember this genocide that happened on the First World War. And if we don't remember these kind of things, what it leads to are situations that we've seen to a lesser extent all around the world since, but in Darfur, Myanmar, Syria, North Korea, and now is happening in East Kazakhstan, in Xinjiang, in China. So it was, for Labor members of Parliament, it's great that our then Chairman of the General Assembly, Herbert Vere-Evatt, who was Foreign Minister of Australia, saw the passage of the Genocide Convention, which urged all signatories to ratify the convention as early a date as possible, and Australia was one of the first. Evatt's words that the vote marked the protection of the most fundamental right of all, the very right of human groups to exist as groups. I obviously, like the member for Barara, have a deep personal attachment to this mission. I stand here today as a member of Australia's vibrant Australian Jewish community and the son of a refugee who fled in Nazi Germany in 1939. And probably one of the proudest moments of my parliamentary career was to stand as a junior minister in Berlin in the Commonwealth war graves and recount to the several hundred German and diplomatic dignitaries the fate of my grandparents who were murdered by the German state in Auschwitz. In 2015, I represented the opposition leader at the 20th anniversary of the Srebrenica massacre, Michael Kazoil, and all of the horrible journalists who follow this particular low road can be reassured. I paid my own fare there. I thought it was important that there be an Australian who was present with Bill Clinton and others to see what Ratko Mladic and the others convicted of genocide in the International Criminal Tribunal in former Yugoslavia had done there in Srebrenica. I've also spoken many times on the genocides perpetrated by the Khmer Rouge in Cambodia, on the massacre in Rwanda, in Darfur, where international law has had some success in prosecuting those charged with genocide. There have been major inadequacies in the consistency of the Genocide Convention worldwide. The Armenian genocide remains unrecognised. Again, it was one of the great moments to see former son of Armenian heritage, Mr Joe Hockey, the member for North Sydney, raise this, and I think it's great work that the member for Goldstein and the Armenian National Committee have had in raising this issue. Well done, and this is an issue that the Parliament will continue to address until we officially pass recognition of what happened to them.
The member for Melbourne Ports. The question